One final story we got to talk about today involves an auto worker who decided to confront President Trump when Trump was visiting his place of employment on a presidential visit and call him a pedophile protector for his refusal to fully comply and release the Epstein files. This incident quickly went viral, partly because of Trump's vulgar and very Trump-like response, and also because some people are trying to make it a free speech issue now that the worker has been suspended from his job, which I simply don't understand or get. We're going to get to that, but first, just here's some reporting from The Hill summarizing the situation.
$250,000 have been raised to support a Ford Motor Company employee who called President Trump a pedophile protector during an event Tuesday in Detroit. The employee, TJ Sabula, says he has no regrets about shouting the accusation at the president, even though he's now been suspended as a result. Media gathered for the presidential event at a truck plant in Dearborn picked up on Sabula's outburst and a retort from President Trump in which he mouthed "F you" twice in Sabula's direction and then made an obscene gesture with his middle finger. Sabula telling the Washington Post his remark was in reference to Trump's handling of the Epstein files, adding that he's now being targeted for political retribution. A GoFundMe account calling Sabula a patriot raised nearly $300,000 by midday Wednesday. In a statement, Ford said it does not condone anyone saying anything inappropriate in its facilities. White House spokesman Stephen Chung said a lunatic was wildly screaming expletives in a complete fit of rage, and the president gave an appropriate and unambiguous response.
So there's the situation. This guy yelled at Trump on the job. He called him out over the Epstein things, which, listen, I agree. Trump should release the full Epstein files like he promised. But I still think it is classless and disrespectful to treat any president who comes to visit your place of work like that when you're on the job. You should not be verbally accosting them or heckling them. That's not dignified or civil. And if I was an employer and I had President Obama, President Bush, President Trump, President Biden, a future president, AOC, or anyone, I would not allow an employee to yell anything hostile or rude at them, let alone something very grave and serious and vulgar, because that's just it's not respectful, and it's not, you're supposed to also keep your politics off the job. So I think it would be a different story if you were talking about a worker fired for his personal Facebook post bashing Trump or something off the clock, because then it becomes a little bit more of a cultural free speech issue. And do we allow people to have opinions without threatening their livelihoods? But on-the-job behavior is not free speech. That's not a thing. You've never had a free speech right to say whatever vulgar things or behave however you want on the clock while representing your employer. Yet some people are claiming this is free speech and acting like this guy is Mother Teresa. Here's a Democratic congressman praising this guy who yelled this at Trump. Listen to this.
Congressman, real quick, what do you make of the union worker yesterday at the Ford plant who called out Donald Trump as a pedophile protector? He's an American hero. He's a patriot. He is exercising his First Amendment rights and his rights as a hardworking union member to speak truth to power. So we're proud of him. We stand with him. And you saw how the president responded. He showed exactly how he's treated workers. Despite his rhetoric, he is essentially, in real life, given the middle finger to the working class Americans, despite his promises. So super proud of him.
There's so much to unpack here. First off, Trump gave one person the middle finger because that guy was rude to him. He didn't give the whole working class the middle finger because of that. That's not a fair extrapolation. Now, you could absolutely say that the president saying F you and flipping the bird to an American citizen is unpresidential no matter what that citizen says to them. I would agree that it's also not the conduct I would expect from a president, but that ship did sail with Trump a long time ago. He wouldn't be president in the first place if people still cared about that. They clearly don't. I still would, in the abstract, like dignified civil presidential behavior, but okay, water's wet. Trump is not like that. We've been new. It's not new. So yeah, that's silly. To claim this guy as a hero for acting like this at work, I don't think so. I'm not sure that we should be encouraging and celebrating that kind of partisan rude behavior on the job. And it has nothing to do with his First Amendment rights. He's not being censored by the government in any way. And it doesn't really even touch on tolerance and censorship and free speech as social and cultural values, because again, it's on the job work. No one has ever believed that you have the right to do whatever you want at work and not get fired. I also think it's strange. Like, there's a GoFundMe. I'll put this on screen. They raised almost $500,000 for this dude, calling him a patriot and a hero. Call me crazy. I think the money could be better served for malaria nets or like literally anything else. But I say that about a lot of GoFundMes, honestly. So I don't think he needs this money. I think he'll be just fine. And I don't think he's a hero for simply doing this. I want to touch on this aspect, though. The unions are going to union, of course, is standing by him and trying to say it's his free speech rights. Listen to this. Breaking. The United Auto Workers is standing by the Ford worker who called Donald Trump a pedophile protector and was suspended afterward. The union said he's a proud UAW member, has a right to free speech, and will receive full contractual protection. Workers should never be subjected to vulgar language or retaliation, including from the President of the United States. This is what solidarity looks like. Then he attaches the statement. Workers should never be subjected to vulgar retaliation from the president. So you can accost him and call him a pedophile protector. And yet if he tells you to F off, you're the victim. I don't believe that. No, I'm sorry. I don't necessarily think Trump should have responded the way that he did, but it's like, if you're going to throw shade at someone, they can clap back at you and it's not a hate crime. I'm sorry. Like, that's ridiculous. And you don't have a right to free speech on the job. That's not a thing. As a private company employer, it would be different if we were talking about like a public government employee. That's a different situation. But just working for a private business, you don't have free speech rights. What do you mean? When I was working at Subway, minimum wage, right? Like my first job in high school, making people sandwiches, and I tell a customer, oh, you're ugly, or oh, put down the fork. I think you've had enough, right? You can't see your if I just started saying inappropriate or rude things to people on the job, I'd be instantly fired. That's not free speech. That's terms of your contract and your employment. So the whole thing is ridiculous. I want to put this tweet on the screen that I found absurd. The left-wing commentator Peter Twinklage, that's not his real name, but whatever, he's pretty big on X, wrote of this story, where's Barry Weiss? Where's Elon Musk? Where's Matt Taibbi? Where are all the free speech champions now? Were you frauds then, or are you frauds now? So I think there's plenty of legitimate criticisms of all the people that he mentioned. Don't get me wrong, but like, how are they free speech hypocrites for not what? Calling it censorship that you fire someone who behaved like an ass at work? I don't think anyone was ever saying it's censorship if bosses discipline unruly employees who embarrass the company. Was anyone ever saying that? That's certainly, if he's referring to the Twitter files, that's not what that was about. That was about the federal government pressuring social media companies to censor First Amendment protected speech. It involved the government and a pressure campaign. Now, whatever you think of it, maybe you think it was legit, maybe you don't believe the reporting, but it wasn't at all comparable to this. If Trump had demanded that this person be fired and pressured for it and said, we're going to come after you if you don't fire that rude employee, then it would be comparable, but I haven't seen any evidence or reporting about that. So it seems to me like a total apples to oranges comparison. And I also just find it hard to take seriously this idea that all these progressive people who, maybe it wasn't them personally, but their side at least, waged these cancellation Twitter mob campaigns for years, is now suddenly deeply concerned about free speech. I don't know. I think everybody's a bit of a hypocrite because honestly, I will say that there's probably some of the conservative people who are defending Ford's decision to suspend this worker. If it had been a MAGA worker yelling out, F you, Joe Biden, would probably be saying free speech, First Amendment, because people are hypocrites and nobody's consistent, but I try to be. And so while I will gladly defend the free speech rights of people who say horrific things I disagree with or behave in ways that are objectionable, this just isn't that kind of case. It doesn't actually involve that. So I'm not going to pretend it's some free speech outrage that this happened. Gosh, what a crazy story. You guys will have to let me know what you think of it all in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed and do consider becoming a channel member to support my content and help me call out the left and right. It's the best thing you can do. Just check out the link in the description. Hit the join button. You'll unlock early access to full ad-free episodes. And thanks so much for doing that. And that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk again real soon.